Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the tropes and trends of the horror genre. This is episode 149, where we are talking about LGBTQ, aka queer horror films. This is Mike Campbell, and I'm joined by
Eric Lee
and
Liz Williams.
Hello, everyone.
So
Hello.
good on the introduction there, Mike.
Yeah.
Because we've been debating about what is
stumbling over consonants and vowels.
We don't want to get. We don't.
I don't want to stumble over any consonants and vowels, but I
We don't
think
want to
yes.
get canceled.
That's so we'll do LGBTQ once, and then now that it's out of the way, for here on out throughout the rest of the episode, we will officially be referring to it as queer horror.
Yes, and
Queer horror.
and I believe that is within the community an accepted definition of the subgenre.
And I think it's accepted in the horror community
absolutely.
as well
Yeah.
as the thing. Yeah. So, where I started with this whole assignment, I read, and I would encourage people to do after you listen to this episode, go and read an article from Vulture magazine, aka the New York magazine, which is obviously a great publication now, 54 years in the running. They did an extensive, they even beat out Eric in terms of the number of films they listed out. My God, they listed out a lot of films.
After this,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be able to add in 5 or 6.
You
new
might have
films.
to,
Yeah,
but
more.
I think they'd still beat you because I think they put in like 50.
Yeah.
They've put in like 50 films. But the thing that was really interesting about it was I had never really thought about LGBTQ horror, queer horror in this context, and they broke it out into like 7 different periods. 30s to the 40s was Fear the Queer Monsters.
Yep.
The 50s was the kitschy monsters and more queer subtext. The 60s was Farewell to the Hays Code.
Yeah.
The 70s was Lesbian Vampires Are Loose.
Yeah.
The
So much
80s,
so.
resurgent conservatism,
Yes.
The AIDS crisis, and the mainstreaming of
Yeah.
queer culture.
Yes.
The 90s was queer cinema and gay vampire dads. The 2000s was out and getting, in parens, proud. And then finally, the 2010s, they're here, they're queer, get used to it.
That's actually a really good summary. And
I think it
really
is
is.
too.
Really good summary.
Yeah. So, and I can't remember who wrote the article, but whoever wrote the article from Vulture magazine, you know who you are, and you did a really, really wonderful job. It goes into great detail, but I think the commonality amongst all those different categories is that gay, lesbian, at all transgendered persons have been sort of used as the villain forever. That's the subtext. Even though they might not be identified as gay, they throw enough qualities and characteristics at them that people go, okay, that's a gay person.
You watch enough Disney animated
They're
movies,
bad.
and you know
Yeah.
gay people are evil because
Exactly.
that's
Yep.
what that pretty much
Yep.
they all. It's like who's the villainess in Little Mermaid? Very
Ursula.
very butch.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of Jafar and a
Yeah.
lot of very effete
Yeah.
villains, and it's like and so from very young you get brought up to believe gay people are villains,
Right.
and it's like
Yep.
that I think Disney has sort of changed their ways in that, but there's a deep backlog of stuff. It's like it starts there.
But the interesting thing, I don't know if you knew this, but I don't know how up you are on the Hays Code, but the Hays Code
Reasonably.
does not specifically call out homosexuality.
Oh, what did they say? Is it
They basically just said, it should. You shouldn't have low moral standards. But that wasn't tantamount to homosexuality. That was not code for homosexuality. But it was ultimately used that way.
Sure. Well, I mean, for a long time, it was for any kind of sexuality.
Right.
I mean, other than, but men kissing women, that's fine.
Right. They did have a line in the Hays Code that talked about sexual perversion.
Right.
Which that you could say that's
in
as
the
close.
50s. Yeah.
was
30s.
pretty much
Yeah.
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Right. But
Exactly.
I was showing an ankle back then.
Any kind of ankle.
I do think it's
Yep.
very interesting, and these are movies that I doubt that any of us are going to touch upon.
Right.
But when we talk about the subtexty era of like the 30s and 40s, like things like Dracula's Daughter and The Uninvited, the Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yep.
They all sort of dance around it, and
Right.
there's a lot of there's suggestions,
Right.
but they really, at what point do you think I have in my mind a movie that actually tried to normalize as close to they could a homosexual relationship? And
What year was it?
1963. It's going to be this is
Oh.
one of the ones I'm going to talk
Oh,
about. So
okay.
it'll be
Let's kick it off then.
all right.
Well,
Get in there.
Before we do, I was the one thing I was going to say though is I think it's interesting because you bring up the point of normalizing homosexuality and transgender persons in film, and I'm kind of like, yeah, when is that? I feel like we're now in 2022. We're sliding back very, very quickly, just as we were getting to the point where it's like, oh, you don't even have to talk about them as a gay person.
Right.
It's just they're persons in a horror film.
Right.
Yeah,
And I was like, I felt like we were on the precipice of getting there. Now we're like getting pulled back into, oh no, that's a gay person in a horror film.
Well,
and you're like, oh, come on.
I think one of the risks nowadays is the feeling like there's a token gay person or a token gay relationship in the movie.
Right.
And
Or worse yet, the director or actors are like perceived as like pushing a gay agenda.
yeah, no, and that's and I think when it's done, and that's a thing of the last 10 years, and certainly that's a conservative reaction.
Right.
But there are times where you go, I think you're trying a little too hard,
Sure.
right? And I think it's like there's nothing about the relationship that would suggest or they can either go over the top and stereotypical, or it's buried and you don't get any sense of the relationship.
Right. Right.
And so those are the two. And I think that there are we talked about this briefly before we got going, which is within this subgenre. There's sometimes you get something like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right.
Where it's just where it's the flamboyant showiness of gay culture, which is like no denying it. It's a fun aspect, but at a certain point that was like the out and proud kind of thing you're talking about. The 70s. Was that 70s that they said, or was that did they jump that to the 90s?
Oh, the out
90s.
out and getting proud was the 2000s.
Okay, because actually in the 70s it was lesbian vampires.
Lesbian
Yeah.
vampires are
90s was
loose.
gay vampire dads.
Yeah.
Gay
Is that what you said it
vampire
was?
dads.
Who's the gay vampire dad?
I don't know the gay.
I don't know either, and
I'd
I
have
know
to
my
check.
90s vampire movies.
Right. Well, the vampire Lestat.
Yeah, maybe they are the gay vampire dads
that's-
because they have little
Oh,
Kirsten Dunst.
oh, yeah.
So
Oh,
it's Lestat
that's
and
what it
Louis.
is. Yeah,
Antonio
yeah, the gay vampire.
There we
Banderas
go.
and Tom
Armand.
Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah,
Good job. It took
There we go.
somebody
We
from
just
New Orleans to
figured
figure
that
out
one
that
out.
Anne Rice
Yeah,
connection.
we figured that one out.
So yeah, I'm part of this sort of also what kicked us off was actually getting a chance to meet Carter Smith.
Yeah.
Out in shout out to Carter.
Yeah. Great
yes.
great movie that
there-
will end up on many end of the year lists.
Yeah, and it is
swallowed.
Yeah, it's going to be at a number of film festivals coming up. I think it's scheduled.
It's
for
at Fantasia and I believe Popcorn Frights.
Yeah, it'll be on Popcorn Frights too. So this is going to be it should be one of the showcase films in any of the festivals. It's really really well done, and it's the drug horror, gay horror, queer horror, kind of the melding of it, I think it's a proud. Carter Smith. What is? How did you describe it to him? To us?
Queer horror director.
Yeah, we got comfortably fits in that.
Yep.
In that, and I think that's. I also think it's rarer to find. Like lesbian horror is much easier to find
Sure.
than gay horror, and
Right.
I think that's you're seeing
Not
a
at
turn.
all.
You're
Thank you,
turning
Jess. Thank you, Jess Franco.
Yeah. Lots of.
All right, let's get to 1963.
Okay.
I want to hear you.
Yeah.
You were trying to make a point. Now I want to hear this point.
Okay, so this is the one of my favorite movies. This is The Haunting.
Oh yeah,
by Robert Wise, 1963.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a masterpiece.
Yup.
For ghost stories, I know that the opening scene was one of your
Yeah.
favorite openers.
Heck yeah.
And this is, it's been it features what might be the best lesbian character ever in horror cinema in Theo, who is Claire Bloom. She's a full out psychic ghost hunter. She's elegant, smart, confident, witty, and her orientation is not sensationalized.
Right.
For 1963.
Yeah.
And she's not. It's not quite. They don't push it hard.
Right.
But when she and our lead protagonist Eleanor end up in the same bed together, it's not a sexual thing. They're clinging to each other for safety, but they love clearly Theo has a thing for Eleanor, and sort of this playful dialogue. And again, she is the smart, witty one. She's the great associate, where Eleanor's kind of messed up. She's the one who's having a lot of the delusions. But when the ghost starts banging around the house and making all kinds of spooky noises, they cling to each other. And that was probably in studio production. You didn't see a lot of because I think of homosexual relationships,
Right.
in played straight.
But didn't I read
it's
somewhere
like-
too that they had written a lot of it out as well in the making of the film?
Yeah, I
Like
think
they
that
had leaned- they had
Oh, there
leaned
was going to be more.
Yeah.
They had leaned a lot heavier into the lesbian character, and then the studio was like,
Too much.
uh-uh.
So this was, and again, this is
It's
not an indie film.
1963.
Right. And it wasn't like this was playing at the drive-in. This was a major studio release, and it was very successful. But it was a refreshing take, and it wasn't, and because we talk about how, and it happens to other minorities, of course, in that era, where you get pigeonholed. You're the other. You're the weirdo, or you're the thing to be nervous about, if not outright feared. And it was just part of the team,
Right?
And I loved her in that movie. It was a bunch of great characters in there. So I guess we also had Julie Harris, Richard Johnson's Dr. Markway was very kind of doing his best Cary Grant impression,
Right.
And a young Russ Tamblyn plays the eager,
That's right,
kind of go-getter guy, and the four of them made this great Scooby-Doo team,
Right.
But they
right.
were all very the cut from different cloths, and so I think that was part of what made The Haunting refreshing, was you had just snappy characters,
Yeah.
and beautiful cinematography,
Yep.
and a good ghost.
Yep.
So anyway, so that was, I think it's easing in. It is really, because I think before in those other ones, it's like there's never even any hand holding. It's just kind of suggestion. It's a look.
Right.
It's a statement, or it's like, oh, she's not married, she's a lesbian. It's like, okay, those sort of broad sweeping kind of things where it's now. But I think actually going back to the 1930s, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think James Whale was a gay director.
Oh,
From Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein.
that's right. Yeah.
And so there was, I think there was a lot of suggestions about that he was doing Bride as a rejection of Frankenstein as a way to.
Oh, really?
And so I have a little bit of a write up. If you go check, I've got a number of these films listed on a dead list.
That's right.
As Mike was alluding to, and again, we'll be adding to that because we're going to go next. Let's go to Liz next.
All right.
But before we go to
Okay.
Liz, The Haunting was number 52 on our top 100 list.
Wow, is that high?
Nice.
Nice.
Will it stay? that high?
I don't know. Hey,
Will it get dropped from the list?
not if I can help it. It's on my list.
Well, I'm asking
Stay
you. I'm
tuned.
asking the question.
I
Give me your prediction
I haven't run the tabulations. I think it's probably going to drop.
without the tabulations. Gut instinct.
Gut instinct.
You think it's going to drop off or just down?
No, just down. I think it's probably
Okay.
going to be in the 70s or 80s.
Okay. All right.
Because I think I do think that we have for those of you who didn't listen to our last podcast, we've been in the process of retooling our top 100 list for after doing it for 4 years, we've seen a lot more movies and we've made a lot more contacts.
Almost 5.
Yep.
Almost 5.
Almost 5 years.
Almost 5.
So it's time to re-up our original recommendations. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be we're going to do a rollout coming in towards Halloween time. So so that's going to be fun. We had a lot of fun doing it the last time, and I think from what I hear, it's a fairly decent shakeup to the list.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, I think so.
And what I hear is The Haunting is going to slide 20 spots.
It's a guess.
All right.
All right.
Let's see.
I
Start
like
putting
guesses.
money down.
Guesses are good. All right, Liz, what do you got?
Okay. I don't think this one's going to be on our top 100 because I had never heard of it
Okay.
until I went looking for queer horror.
Mhm.
And this is 2017. It's a Norwegian supernatural thriller called Thelma. It is
Ah.
directed by Joachim Trier, who just recently did The Worst Person in the World, which is getting accolades all over the place. And this film was selected as Norway's entry for the best foreign language film at the Oscars.
Oh, really?
But it wasn't nominated. Yeah. So this is the story of a young girl named Thelma who has been raised in a religious family, and she goes to the big city of Oslo for university, and she meets another female student named Anya. And as she develops feelings for Anya, psychic or telekinetic things start happening, and she realizes that her awakening feelings are causing these things to happen. So this one is really good. She's been sheltered in this religious family, so she is really grappling with, she thinks that the feeling she's having for this other girl is wrong. She's also in university where they're smoking, drinking, partying, all the things that, yes, she thinks they're all wrong. So how is she going to grapple with these feelings and then with the problems that come along with them? So she's able to send people they just disappear in her telekinetic powers. We don't know where they go and if she can get them back. So you have
do you
stay
see them
tuned
just
to the film.
Do they blink
Yep.
out? They just
They just kind of disappear. So as she's exploring why is this happening to her, she goes to like a doctor. She starts to remember things from her childhood, and maybe she's always had these powers and was just blocking them out, and possibly they're hereditary. And self-discovery and a coming-of-age story ensue with a happy ending, but it's still creepy and fits the brief. And it's two young girls in love. So,
and a happy ending.
Yeah, and a happy ending. So
And coming of age.
Thelma gets a girlfriend at the end.
Do we ever find out what happened to the people who disappear?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes,
so
she will.
it's like a Thanos snap or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
don't know.
She puts on a glove. No.
She's got all
Yeah,
the
so
Infinity Stones.
Yeah, all the Infinity Stones are all over Oslo. So it's a kind of a quiet film. It reminds me a little bit of like a Brightburn, something like that. Not as dark as that, but kind of the same, those kind of vibes. So if you like Brightburn, if you like The Innocents, which are all kind of kids with powers, you'll like this one too.
Oh, cool.
So Thelma, 2017 from
All right.
Norway.
Mike, what you got?
All right. I am, as always, I try to pick the stabbiest and slashiest and sleaziest of the bunch.
As opposed to the one that nobody can find because you can only find it in Movie Madness.
Movie Madness.
Exactly. This one you can find. I know you can find this one everywhere. This is a 1983 film that was originally released as Nightmare Vacation. This is, of course, this is the American slasher film written and directed by Robert Hiltzik, who did nothing else. Nothing else. Sleepaway Camp.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He and apparently like they came to him like years later, like in the 2000s, and they were like, "Dude, did you know that people are like totally ape over this film? Like they love this film?" And he was like, "Huh?" He apparently was like a
Why?
it was like it was like a partner in a law firm in New York. He was like, "What are you What are you even talking about?" Anyway, this of course was released during the heyday of slasher movies, and of course it's known for its very, very infamous twisty
the
ending.
closing scene.
Yes, which I'm not going to go into, other than to say that is not exclusively, but that's a big part of why it lands on our queer horror list.
Yeah.
The other part of it, obviously, is at the very beginning of the film. Is the film starts in the summer of 1975. A fella and his partner, John and Lenny, take John's children, Angela and Peter, on a boating trip near Camp Arawak. And the two young kids prank their dad by one of the dads by capsizing the boat. They try to swim ashore, but a camp counselor recklessly strikes them with her speedboat, leaving just the one girl, and we'll put girl in quotes, alive. 11 years later, the girl, who's being raised by her eccentric Aunt Martha, decides to go to the aunt decides to send her, Angela, of course, and Martha's son Ricky to the same camp. People start to die at the camp. Gruesome, merciless deaths, which are I'm here to tell you, I watched this last week, still effectively gnarly. I mean, this is a D grade film.
Yep.
D grade is probably being putting it gently, but
it's a classic at the same time.
It is a classic, yeah. And this is the thing I think is interesting about this, is because some people look at this film and say, no, this is painting trans people and gay people in a very, very bad light. But a transgendered writer, Alice Collins of Bloody Disgusting, she says that this film is steeped in queerness, especially compared to its contemporaries. In its day, it took a much deeper look than any other film was willing to do. And the fact that, Angela and Peter's dad is a closeted gay man. There's, and the large majority of the people that you see in the film that are scantily clad are not women; they're actually men. And so she argues that even in the latter sleepaway camp films, and there are many, many more. If you want to dive into the sleepaway,
are there really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't know there were.
I think there's 5. I think there's 5 sleepaway camps.
Whoa. Okay.
They said, Angela is presented as a woman who uses feminine pronouns, and so she sort of says, even though it's kind of this like backwards sort of brainwashing that Angela stumbled into this, she's not. It's not a disparaging presentation of somebody from the LGBTQ community. Now, there are plenty out there that say it most certainly is.
I think it could be seen as problematic.
Yeah, but there are those that argue the other way.
Right.
I'm here to tell you, after having watched it last week, it is still the final scene in the film. Actually, about the final 3 minutes of the film are still about as shocking. I mean, Frank, I don't think there's really much more shocking than you can dream up.
Yeah. I think, Felissa Rose, still an active member of the horror community. She does active. A ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Not a lot of good stuff. She actually did return to Sleepaway Camp back in 2008.
Yeah.
But she does the reclusive, awkward, shy girl really, really well, and you buy in you buy into her so much that the ending is just that much more of a shocker.
it's a shocker, and all the other thing that's really incredibly shocking about it too is it ends on that note.
It's bang.
On
Yeah.
the single note, and they freeze frame it for it's got to be a solid 30 seconds, which is I don't think I've ever really seen a horror film quite do that same move. If there's another film that does that same thing, please correct me, but I don't think I've really ever seen a horror film do that.
We should have that. We should try and do a dead list or a whole podcast on great freeze frame endings. That
would be a good idea.
That is a knockout blow. Because I'm sure, like if you were a theater goer at the time and you didn't have the background information going in, you would have been going, no.
That's what people did when they went and saw The Crying Game.
Yeah.
It was the exact same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't want, it's like, the people coming out, it's like, don't spoil it.
Even though I said I wasn't going to spoil it, I think we've already spoiled it. So on
that
note, I'm going to
It's from what, 1983?
Yeah, I mean, come on, it's a 40-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Come on. So.
Go see it.
Yeah.
If you haven't.
So I am going to sort of, I found this curious movie that I watched for, what was it? I think it was Popcorn Frights. That in 2019, a movie called Bit. And Bit goes places that the craft only suggested, knocking down any notions of subtext. This is a movie that is an out and proud lesbian vampire movie, kind of, and less like kind of the slinky, sexy vampires of the 70s. This is this is a sort of a gender swapped Lost Boys without any pretense. And it also provides a significant cultural milestone by casting a transgender young woman, Nicole Maines, as the lead in the movie.
So it's lesbians and transgendered female vampires?
Yeah, and my gaydar is horrible because I had no idea until after I wrote my review that Nicole is trans.
Yeah. Well, you are of a certain age, so
yeah, it's like an old.
In the interest of full disclosure,
old man can't really, it's like didn't pick up on it. But this is a young woman travels from a closed-minded small town in Oregon, of course, for the anonymous security of Los Angeles, where she joins a coven of young vampires who are a self-described group of terrorists and have a specific code to adhere to, and that is. Never glamour another vampire. You kill what you eat. Don't let them turn. And
wait, what was the first verb? You
never glamour.
Glamour.
That would be that is the psychological.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where they
I'm
do
with you. Yep.
You are.
Yeah.
Hello,
you're under our spell.
It's like you are mine now. No, okay, that kind of stuff.
I didn't think they worked on that back and forth.
Apparently it's a rule. It's like you're not supposed to do that to another vampire. That's cheating. And never ever turn a man because they can't handle the power.
Right.
That's true.
Pretty simple rules, right? and you know that all three of these rules are going to get tested. The ladies have empowered themselves to become enforcers and protectors of both female and the vampire kind. They like to prey on peeping toms, abusers, rapists, and the odd bro vampire hunter that they might run across. It's a community where they consolidate their power as protection because even as powerful as they are, they need each other as protection and company and lovers. Remember, they can't turn any men. So it's the safety in numbers game so long as everyone sticks to the code. It's also kind of a not so subtle subtext about life in the gay community. Mm-hmm. Great themes, great look. It's kind of got that kind of ravey, clubby, sort of '90s throwback.
But when you say themes, you mean the fact that they are they have to stick together and they're kind of insular, or
I kind of like the Lost Boys take on it. I like the sense of the sisterhood and the that they lean on each other and what they're that it's kind of a gang, right?
Yeah.
And I like that. Those takes on it, and it's not entirely fresh, but it's well executed. The acting's not great,
right?
It's kind of stiff, and sadly, I think Natalie Maines is limited as an actress.
Okay,
she's as the lead, she's a little stiff, but now knowing it's like
Well, she's
you know,
really young.
she's
She's
a
born in
kid.
1987.
Yeah, just a kid. So it's like she apparently got from this. She also she got in on
It's
the
like the CW and
CW.
some
Yeah, the
superhero thing.
Yep. I think she was like on Supergirl or something like that.
So Liz, is Lost Boys a gay film? Let's turn to
I mean,
our
only one of the vampires has a girlfriend.
Okay,
Just a bunch of dudes living by themselves in a cave wearing
Lots of makeup,
sparkly clothes, and going to the carnival every day. I don't know.
Looking very stylish and kind of rebellious.
I'll tell you what, though, when I was a teenage girl watching it, I was crossing my fingers it wasn't a gay film. We love you all. So, but who knows?
All right.
It could go either way.
I just wanted to go to our
probably
resident
like the
Lost Boys expert. Yeah.
So this is, I think one of the actresses to look out for, Diana Hopper, was very charismatic as she's the alpha of the group.
Okay.
And she's got a lot of charisma.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised to see her show up in other genre movies going forward. But this was, I think it's a small film, another festival circuit film.
This is Bit.
I think I gave it 3.5 stars.
Okay.
But I think it as a landmark for trans representation. Although they don't make a thing out of her being trans. She's just a trans. Interestingly, it's a trans actress, but not a trans character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or at least the old man Eric didn't pick up on clues. I might have to watch it again just knowing now what I know.
Yeah.
Anyways, worth a watch.
And it's got a great poster.
Yep.
If you go look up the poster for it is super cool looking.
It has all the Dario Argento colors in there.
Yeah.
All your
and the rainbow too.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
That's
the rainbow is tucked away in there.
Okay, Liz, you're number 2.
Okay. My number 2 is hard to talk about without spoiling it. And it could be one of those movies that if we do a list of, final shot with the oh shit moment, this would qualify. This is 2018's The Perfection.
Okay.
So this film premiered at Fantastic Fest and then is on Netflix now, Netflix original. It stars Allison Williams and Logan Browning as Charlotte and Lizzie, and they are both cello prodigies. Mm-hmm. And Allison Williams, Charlotte, had to leave this prestigious school, the Backoff School, that is run by Anton, played by Steven Weber of Wings. No matter what he's been in, it's always Wings. Logan Browning playing Lizzie who has kind of replaced her. So Charlotte, this is why I can't really spoil it. They are both in Shanghai at a recital and end up getting together, Charlotte and Lizzie. And after a night of drunken partying and passion, one of them ends up drugged and hallucinating and commits an act of self-mutilation that will change her career forever. And what I love about The Perfection is this is like, okay, you think the movie's going one way, and then it pivots to a whole other way, and then you think it's going that way, and then it pivots to an entire other way, and you think it pivots like 5 times and ends up in a completely bizarre ending. And it's nuts. And the last scene and shot is also nuts and crazy. So this one is the most violent and bloody and gory of my choices, because you're going to get severed limbs, lots of severed limbs, eyes sewn shut, mouth sewn shut, people scratching their arms thinking that there's bugs in them. You're going to get all sorts of craziness.
Yeah, this was Allison Williams' first big. That was after Get Out.
Yeah, that I feel like she carried by herself. Yeah. It was right after Get Out. And
I remember.
It's really good.
I remember when it popped up on Netflix, I watched it immediately, and I think you're right, Liz. I did like elements of it, but I think it flip-flopped back and forth too many times, and then the ending seemed almost non-commensurate with the whole first half of the film, and I was like,
Right. Exactly.
huh? But it's a great looking film, and there are some really
looks great, and it has
shocking
some
things in it.
And it's kind of fun if you take it in pieces, because you're
Yeah.
right. The way that we get our first severed limb seems very dramatic and going through a lot of hoops for kind of the ending. So it just seems like,
Yep.
wow, that was the longest way you could have gotten to that. But it's fun.
Yep.
It's real fun, and it makes you think that you're about to watch a completely different movie. I mean, you're
Exactly, yep.
on a bus outside of in rural China.
Right.
Someone's about to get real sick, and you're like, oh wait, is this going to be like some kind of zombie movie or apocalypse movie? I thought it was about cellists at this prestigious school, and so it's a fun watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So this was, and so the two leads were they an established relationship to begin with, or was it kind of
no? They met in Shanghai. You kind of don't know if Charlotte is when you understand her motivations for even wanting to meet this person, you don't know if she was just doing this a bit as an ends to a mean, but then at the end, it does seem that they have formed a real relationship, and then they are intertwined together in a fascinating way.
All right.
So.
All right. So not only is Liz our resident Lost Boys expert, she's also our resident French expert.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
So, Liz, how do you translate knife and heart in French?
Something a cœur.
Cateau dans le...
Oh, that's awful.
I
talked about it for Giallo.
I know.
So I said it on that one.
I know. Yeah. So this is the 2018 horror thriller film directed by...
Un cateau dans le cœur.
Yeah, there you go. All right. That's exactly what I was... That's basically what I was saying.
You're close.
Yeah. This is the 2018 horror film directed by Jan Gonzalez. And it is... Yeah, it's exactly as Liz says. Although you put it in the Giallo category.
Yes.
The AV Club said it was unabashedly queer tribute to the sleazier side of Giallo cinema. Which is totally true. I mean, it's like the perfect mashup of queer horror and Giallo cinema. And it's got a knife. It's got a dildo knife. It's got a mass killer. It's got a mass killer with gloves. It's kind of got all of it.
Yeah, the gloves.
It's got everything.
But the thing that's great about it is that it is set. It's like so often if people are enamored with the late 70s or the 1970s, and they totally. Like this year's standout film, 2022's Ty West film X, I think hit the nail on the head in terms of a 70s throwback film because it didn't stretch itself too thin. This was the same way. This is set in the summer of 1979. A woman, Anne, who's a producer and director of gay pornography, she's abandoned by her girlfriend. And editor Lois, and she is going through fits, and she is heartbroken by the dissolution of that relationship. All the while, she is working on her new film, and she gets a heterosexual young man to star in her new film, which is based on the murder of one of her previous actors, and she decides to call the film and dedicate the film to his murder, and she names it Anal Fury 5. And of course, Anal Fury 5 is a throwback to early on in the film where the masked man, the masked killer, straps Carl, who was one of the pornographic actors, to a bed, and he kills him with a dildo converted as a switchblade. This is all true. I'm not making any of this up.
Nope.
But as Liz has already said in the Giallo episode that we had some time ago, which you should go and listen to because it wasn't that long ago. It was probably 30-ish episodes ago. This is an incredibly stylish film. And again, I think one of the other great qualities of this film is that not only does it hit the 1970s pieces and parts right on the head, it also hits the giallo pieces and parts right on the head. I mean, everything from the soundtrack to the dreamy quality to the overly complex storyline.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so, but it actually,
Well, okay.
the killer, like when they give you his motivation, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's
Right.
not completely
Gonzo.
out there, you know. And giallo, you're supposed to be able to figure it out. Like if you were a detective, like would it make sense? I mean, it's
Yeah.
over the top, yes, but like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The cops in this movie are funny too.
Oh yeah, they're great.
Because they changed the name of their movie to Homicidal.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this is giallo without the casual misogyny in there.
Well,
I think
yeah, a little bit, because it's Vanessa Paradis plays the director,
Right.
and she's, you know, like very loving with these parts. So yeah, it's
they've
not.
spun it a bit. It's what it sounded
They've
like.
spun it a bit.
Yeah, and she is very attached to the gay lifestyle, both within like from a professional standpoint, but then from a personal standpoint, she's attached to it as well. And she's also, as she's trying to make this film, she's dealing with the breakup of her relationship with her former editor, and she's absolutely crushed by that. And so you kind of get multiple layers of LGBTQ queer horror in this film, but it is one heck of a film. I do recommend folks watch it. It is a contemporary film, 2018. The AV Club, one of my favorite lines in their review was that they said that this is a perverse thriller that is more of an intellectual pleasure than a prurient one. Still, maybe don't watch it with your mom.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah, unless your mom's into the razor dildo thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, go see Knife+heart. Also in French, it is.
I close it.
Ah,
Un cadeau à la coeur.
there you go.
Not
Okay.
cadeau, that's gift. Something,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's cat. That's cat and knives, right? No.
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 Isn't
Shot is a cat.
Okay. So yeah, leave the French to Liz.
Yeah, not me.
Shot.
Not me. All right, Eric, what is next on your list?
So this one almost makes my top 25
What?
list. This was a movie that I saw in 2019, and I think this was an Overlook film. And this is What Keeps You Alive, directed by Colin Minahan, starring Brittany Allen and Hannah Emily Anderson. And it is the story of a married lesbian couple, Jackie, who played by Anderson, and Jules, played by Brittany Allen, who are celebrating their 1-year anniversary by taking a trip to a remote cabin in the woods where they can relax and enjoy some peace and quiet. Things unravel, however, when someone recognizes Jackie, calling her by another name. Soon, Jules comes to realize that Jackie has been leading a double life, and the side that she didn't know is that she's psychotic and homicidal. So, you know, it becomes a cat and mouse film with the two women, well, with Jackie trying to, once the gig's up,
Right.
Jackie turns on Jules and is like, "I'm gonna kill you." Well, I mean, not quite that simple, but there is a.
Does she employ the Roscoe P. Coltrane?
I'm gonna kill you. No, definitely not. That's an Ericism.
Okay.
But the beauty of the story is that both the heroine protagonist and the crazy villain are on equal footings, right? And from the director Minahan had at one point thought of this as a straight couple,
Right.
But he wanted the tables to be fairly balanced, right?
Right.
And so actually Brittany Allen, who is his wife in real life, sort of said, well, how about we let's take it a different direction. And so that there's this great power struggle in the movie, and particularly because Jules is still in love with Jackie, even though they're the literally the knives have come out, and so she's trying to, it's like, I can break through, and then it's like, no, I've got to get away. But they're on this island in the middle of Canada, Canadian, like one like Lake Champlain or something like that, and it was intense, and I think that it also, seeing as how that gay marriage is still a fairly new institution, that it was kind of a non-factor relative to, it was played up normally.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that it was clear, like through the first act, they were a very loving couple, and then things get weird, and then things get, and then it becomes a bloody, cat and mouse game, and woe be to anybody who was witness to these two people on the island trying to survive. So it didn't make a huge splash at the box office, but I think that it did very well on the festival circuit.
Did it get picked up anywhere for streaming or anything?
It's available for
Yeah,
streaming.
it's streaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and
I think it might be on Netflix.
it's a beautiful looking movie too.
All right, so two questions, because you've talked about this before. When
It's really good.
What context did you talk about this before on the podcast? You threw it into another category. I know this for a
Was
fact.
this the one where you talked when we talked about pairs or couples? Or,
Oh yes.
It may have been.
Okay, Eric's double dipping.
was
Okay.
this the It Stains the Sand Red people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what you talked about
Yeah.
it with.
Yeah,
Question
so-
two, you said top 25, almost top 25. Does that mean like 55, 75?
It's in my top 50.
Okay.
So
Almost top 25 really means like it's not like 20.
It was in contention.
It's not 26.
It wasn't the next one in.
Okay.
I think there were some that I had to push out from my previous top 25 would probably maybe it's like around 30 to 35, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was that the script was great.
Now, what did you
Brittany Allen was great.
What did
She's
you
a
give
really
it
good
when
I
you
gave it
reviewed?
4
stars?
4, maybe 4.5. I really
Okay.
like this movie.
Okay. All
So-
right. Go read Eric's review at
let me go check.
scariestthings.com.
What did I-
1T.
Take a look. What did I give this thing? Okay, Liz, what have you got?
Okay, I just discovered this movie. I have seen it. I can't always want to say, like, I've seen the box before. It's not the box, it's the Avatar on the streaming services, and I've always been like, that looks interesting. And finally, I got to watch it, and boy, was I not disappointed. This is an Icelandic feature. It is from 2017, and it is called, in English, Rift, but in Icelandic, the original title is Rokkur, Rokkur. Okay, so this, I'm going to read the plot summary from IMDb. Months after they broke up, Gunnar receives a strange phone call from his ex-boyfriend, Einar. He sounds distraught and like he's about to do something terrible to himself. So Gunnar drives up to the secluded cabin where Einar is holed up and soon discovers that there's more going on than he imagined. As the two men come to terms with their broken relationship, some other person seems to be lurking outside the cabin wanting to get in. So this movie is written and directed by Erlinger Thorsten, and it stars, forgive me for the slaughter of your names,
so
Icelandic
she can do
people.
French, but you can't do Icelandic.
Bjorn Stefansson and Sigurpor Åkersson. Bjorn plays Gunnar and Sigur plays Einar. And this movie is creepy. It is so creepy. So as soon as Gunnar goes out there, he's like, what's going on? And why did you come here? And I was like, I came here to remember, like what? And he can't remember anything that happened. He's drinking, he's sleepwalking. He's talking about when he was there as a child. There are shadows that you're going to see because, it's Christmas time in Iceland. The sun goes down at probably 3:00 in the afternoon. So you're in the pitch black way outside of the city. There are so many where you're like, what is that? Is that a shape? Is that something? Or is that just a smudge on the window? It is creepy. At the same time, you are hearing about why their relationship didn't work, how Gunnar has moved on and Einar just doesn't want to accept that. everything like that. So two of my favorite like critic reviews or quotes of what they said it seemed or it sounded like was Anton Battelle from Sight and Sound says it's an ambiguous, creepy study of conflicting desires and haunting pasts, as well as a literally glacial take on Don't Look Now. So if you like Don't Look Now, you'll get that.
Are there any dwarves?
And then
'Cause, that
no,
would scare the
no,
shit
there
out
are
of
no
me.
dwarves. Yes, there are no dwarves. There's a little kid, but he's not a dwarf.
It's
Yeah.
Scandinavia. You might get some
Yeah.
dwarves.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, you could. You would get gnomes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Christy Pachinko said it offers a heady blend of love and pain that makes it feel like Call Me by Your Name meets It Comes at Night. And I think that's a good.
Yeah.
The ending to me, the ending is a bit ambiguous, but ambiguous in the way and left me with kind of the same feeling as the first time you see Blair Witch.
Oh, I like that.
And you just see him in the corner and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
what? Oh, it's really, really good. It is a slow burn, though. I will not lie. It gives you breadcrumbs and pieces throughout, but this is not a punch you in the face, violent horror movie. This is Hitchcockian, creepy, the scenery, the winter in Iceland, the cold, the wind. It is gorgeous.
Yep. Iceland,
highly recommend this.
We've been seeing more stuff coming out of Iceland. We just saw it hatched.
That's right.
At Portland Horror Film Festival.
Yes.
If they can keep
Elvar Gunderson, if you're listening to the podcast, who is the director of It Hatched, we would love to have you on.
And I think that's actually something that's
we're working on it.
Don't
working
be surprised.
on it.
This is a legit.
We're working on. This is not Hey Rob Zombie, come on the podcast.
No, this is. I think we've got that one sort of teed up. Hopefully to talk. We got a bunch of directors getting ready to talk to them, but that's for another topic. Mike, it's coming back around to you.
All right.
One.
Yep.
So this is not a slow burn, and this is about as transgressive as you could possibly be. This is the 1981 film, originally released as Night Warning, and then recalibrated as Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker.
I saw you had a review on that. On the site,
this is a horror film directed by William Asher. It stars Susan Terrell of Warhol fame, Jimmy McNichol. Yes, that 1970s Jimmy McNichol
with feathered hair.
Beautiful hair, beautiful hair. If I could only have hair like that, oh my god.
Yeah, first things first, Mike.
Yeah, Julia Duffy from Newhart and Bo Svensson, Quentin Tarantino favorite, Bo Svensson. This was sort of framed as a contemporary Oedipus tale involving the plot focuses on a teenager, Jimmy McNichol, who is being raised by his neurotic aunt, who is also harboring incestuous feelings for him. Finds himself at the center of a murder investigation after she stabs a man to death in the house, and the detective that's investigating the crime believes that the murder is the result of a homosexual love triangle involving the boys' basketball coach.
Huh.
So yeah, this film has multiple layers to it, but at its heart, it is a great sort of early 80s slasher film, and turns in some really, I think, really wonderful. There are some really great scenes. Susan Terrell, as I mentioned, is a Warhol cast off. I can't remember. She was in a couple of Warhol films. I don't recall off the top of my head which ones, but she was. I know she was in Andy Warhol's Bad. From I think 1977. But anyway, she is just absolutely unhinged in this film. I mean, she is what a wild character. But the thing that's really interesting about it is that this was one of the very first films to portray a homosexual male character as a positive figure in Jimmy McNichol's life. He's the basketball coach who is subjected to homophobia, but more importantly, the guy that played the character, Steve Easton, he said, the thing that's really interesting about it is that he's just a gay man. He's not a pervert. He likes men. He's got a boyfriend. His boyfriend gets murdered. But the other thing that's interesting about it is that this is like one of the first times in sort of cinema history where the gay character is not an urban sophisticate, right? He's a basketball coach.
Yeah.
He's just part of the community. And
but is he an out gay man?
No, he's not an out gay man. And but they deal with that in the film. But the thing that's interesting about it is that he is just a gay character, and there's nothing flamboyant or wild about him, where that was very commonplace, is that's how you identify.
In the 80s, it was more often than not the flamboyant gay characters,
right,
or the ones who just very effete men and very butch women. I mean, that was the in the 80s. What was the description from Vulture for the 80s period?
The 80s period was referred to as the resurgent conservatism, the AIDS crisis, and the mainstreaming of queer culture.
Yeah, I don't know that the mainstreaming might have happened later, but we had some things like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was kind of like, that was, I mean, there were a lot of subtext, or not more than just subtext in there. Yeah. But that's a problematic movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I totally forgot to mention Bill Paxton's in the film too.
Oh, wow. I've never seen this. Is this streaming?
Yeah, you can. In fact, as one of the Shudder where they package up sort of.
That's right. I did see it.
Like-minded films. I think they put it in the Pride Month collection. Nice. Yeah, so you can.
I think Rift is there as well.
Yeah,
and you can also see it on AMC Plus, but I know they own Shudder, so it may.
There you go.
Yeah, it is a really wild film. You have no idea where it's going or what's happening, and it is super wild. And man, Jimmy McNichol's hair, woo, good looking hair, better than
stuff that Mike's dreams are made of.
I know, better than Christy's hair. Christy McNichol had great hair, but Jimmy, wow.
He had the Sean Cassidy haircut.
Yes, he did.
All right, so that gets us to the end of our list. I think something that I'd like to sort of throw out there is that there are a number of other movies that have come out recently that are certainly worth checking out that fit this bill too. I think a movie that Mike, that you really enjoyed, I think Spiral.
Yeah.
Came out a couple years ago, 2019.
Yep.
Hypochondriac. Which is I don't know. Is it still on the festival circuit, or is it?
Yes, it will be at Fantasia next, but it should be coming out soon, I would think.
I think we captured its world premiere at South by Southwest 2022.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And let's see. Well, Lizzie, which is the Lizzie Borden story.
Yep.
2018. That's fairly new, also. And then a movie that we're kind of iffy on.
Ooh, but
everybody at the festivals, it's like you young'uns out there like it.
Sissy, yeah.
I'm
here to tell you, Sissy's going on my worst of the year list, and I'm not even joking.
But this might be old man Campbell talking because it has been.
Well, none of us really.
No, we. It's like
liked it. I mean, we all said it was good, but we're not the demographic.
No, it's I had it as like a 2.5, 3-star movie.
Yeah.
Mike, probably you had it like
2.5,
star and a half, 2-star kind of thing. Yeah. But that is, that's a watch it and see what you make of it. It's a really well made, good looking movie.
It's not a bad movie. We were just disappointed.
Yeah, it was disappointed.
We're disappointed in you.
The character's not particularly likable, and then there's a lot of that. I have an issue with sort of digital themed, new like.
That's because we're
viral
old.
Media.
Oh yeah.
It's like and this is like
social media.
Put down your phone.
Sissy's an influencer,
right?
And it's like, but then again, it's like maybe we're just sensitive because we're podcasters and we're thinking that we're more hot shit than we really are.
Oh no, we're influencers. Kind of
okay.
We are influencers. 100%.
Liz is particularly. Liz is an influencer.
Yeah.
Once someone starts giving me some product.
we
I
get
don't know what it would be.
what's the best swag? The swag we get is still from our friends. It's like from
No, we
Hey,
get
we get screeners to movies.
That's
Is
right.
like,
well, we got
I get screeners to movies and advanced reader copies of books. I am
Yeah.
living my dream.
actually the
our swag is cramming our head full of garbage. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's our swag.
right. Yeah, we get yeah, you don't sneeze at a South by Southwest pass. That's for sure.
No, you do not.
Do not. All right. Well, let's get
not.
out of here. Unless you have anything else, Eric. Any other commentary or pithy remarks you'd like to make about
Pithy?
LGBTQ horror?
Pithy. No, I think we have.
Profound.
Who's got who between you and
I have a
Liz, who got-
tagline.
okay.
All right. Let's hear it, Liz.
I have a tagline, and this is the one from Thelma, and it is: sometimes the most terrifying discovery is who you really are.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Insightful.
Like a
Insightful.
little self-discovery thing. And
Yeah,
then Mike had a
little
really awful
self-discovery.
one. What was your awful
Yeah.
one?
From 1983, Sleepaway Camp. You won't be coming home.
Oh, terrible.
All
Both
right.
sides of the coin there.